On the 13th of January 2021, the government took a giant leap towards the Make in India mission, announcing the procurement of 83 Tejas Light Combat Aircraft from Hindustan Aeronautics. The order, worth around 48,000 crore rupees, is the biggest ever deal given to an Indian manufacturer, and this is a landmark moment for Project Tejas, which had begun work on making a light combat aircraft over 30 years ago in 1983. The government wanted to release the first aircraft by 1994. However, the first prototype of the LCA flew only in 2001. That's 18 years after the project started. It was in 2019 when the Indian Air Force was given the first aircraft with final operational clearance, or FOC. This version of the Tejas Light Combat Aircraft, the Mark 1A, comes with 4 major capabilities over the current variant of the LCA. These include mid-air refueling, enhancing the combat ability and maintainability improvements through incorporation of active electronically scanned array radar, electronic warfare suite, and beyond visual range missile capabilities. The Tejas deal will give a big boost to several other domestic manufacturers. Over 70 Indian suppliers are involved in manufacturing various parts of the aircraft. About 500 Indian companies, including MSMEs, will work with HAL in producing the aircraft. HAL plans to roll out 16 aircraft every year, starting FY 2023-24. Joining me now to discuss this further is R. Madhavan, the Chairman and Managing Director of HAL. Mr. Madhavan, many thanks for joining us here on cnbc TV 18 on Make in India, New Deal for Defence, and congratulations on finally getting this through. But if I could start by asking you about how confident you feel about meeting the timelines. When do you expect the first aircraft to be delivered?
We are quite confident about meeting the timelines. The first aircraft is to be delivered within 36 months from T0, that is the date of signing the contract. We are quite capable of doing that, and we are increasing our production rates from 8 to 16 aircraft from 2022-23 onwards, when we will be ready to meet the requirements of this new order.
Okay, so 36 months from the date of signing is when you expect to be able to deliver the first aircraft, and you are looking at enhancing capability. Aviation expert Angad Singh has put together some details on what this project has entailed over the years. According to the article that he's written, the average build rate works out to about 3.5 aircraft per year. You're talking about enhancing capacity from 8 to 16, sir. What have been the constraints as far as the build rate is concerned, and why do you believe you will be able to overcome those and be able to actually deliver 16 a year?
Basically, the build rate was limited because of the first order wasn't big enough for us to ramp up from 8 to 16. Second part of it was there were lots of design changes and modifications that we were doing it, and we are continuously doing even now. But that is now going to be matured by the time that we start the design activity for Mark 1A. So production rate, we have already proven that we can, as of now also, we can do 8. In fact, we have produced this year also 8 aircrafts. But the rates, if you take an average from the first couple of aircrafts, then the average what he has calculated is 3.5 aircrafts. But there was a gap in between in 2015 and 16. So that's how the numbers have come down. But there is no shortage of capacities. In fact, the capacity with our vendors. There are 5 major vendors which are going to give me the whole structure built by them. So we have got 3 lines in operation now itself. So we will be able to do that 16 number after 2024.
Okay, so you're saying that you're saying you feel confident of being able to deliver 16 aircraft annually, which is what you're working with, and that you have been able to create a vendor ecosystem in place so you will not face supply constraints or supply shortages. I want to talk about the price as well, Mr. Madhavan. Does the 48,000 crore rupees also include the life cycle maintenance cost? Is that part of the 48,000 crores that has been signed off on?
First of all, there is a tax component, both BCD as well as then there is an exchange rate variation, that is CRV correction to the present today's level, that is for 2,200 crores, and therefore the project actually consists of 38,000 which is coming to HAL. Now, out of this 38,000, it does involve a lot of ground support equipments, the facility that has to be set up at Air Force bases, as well as the design and development cost from DRDO, which is working to about 1,400 crores. So this all are included into this contract, and there was lots of numbers floating around in the press regarding the cost of the aircraft, which is actually an average cost over the whole period is 309 crores per aircraft.
You said there's a component of tax, etc., at 18%. Stripped of all of that, or inclusive of all of that, what is the per aircraft cost, sir?
The per aircraft cost that has been contracted is 309 crores. So it's average.
Okay, 309 crores.
The first aircraft definitely will be cheaper, and the last aircraft, because of the escalations, will be slightly higher. And the cost for the trainers will be around 280 crores.
Okay, and just to clarify that, did you say that this includes the life cycle maintenance cost as well, the 38,000 crore rupees?
My voice is cut.
I was just asking you whether the 38,000 crore rupees includes the life cycle maintenance cost as well, sir.
No, not the life cycle maintenance cost, but there is a space that is required for keeping the serviceability up for the aircraft is included in this.
Okay. Mr. Madhavan, important details coming in from you. We are going to take a break and resume our conversation. Hold on, and we're connecting you back in a second. Stay on with us. We're discussing the LCA Mark 1A plan, the deal that's just been inked and signed off on. We're talking to the chairman of HAL. We're back in a moment. You're watching Make in India, New Deal for Defence. We're in conversation with R. Madhavan, the Chairman and Managing Director at HAL. Mr. Madhavan, many thanks for staying on with us. I want to talk to you about the plan as far as hiking the indigenization content is concerned. You want to take that from 50% currently to 60%. What is this going to entail? By when do you hope to be able to make this move up?
Okay. Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, Mr. Madhavan, I was asking you about the indigenization plans from moving from 50% to 60%. By when do you intend to do that, and what will it entail?
The indigenous content is, as of now, around 50%, slightly above 50% as of now, but we plan to go up to 65%. Basically, there are a few components which are still coming from outside. That is, about 10 countries are involved, and 55 vendors are involved outside of the country, which we want to bring it down to 35 vendors. And basically, we are looking at areas of avionics where we would like to have Indian partners develop the systems in-house here rather than buying it from outside. So that will be regarding ISR radar, which is initially a bought-out item. This will become an Uttam radar, which is an indigenous item. Secondly, the EW suit components also will be made in-house here, as well as with our vendors across India. As of now, there are about 560 plus vendors involved in this, of which 140 are in the design partners. So we hope that these designs will come into play around the 20th aircraft and above. So we expect that the indigenous content will go up, as well as the material content also will go up from indigenous materials. And the MSME sector will come up with, which is now running around 450 of them are there with us. This also will go up. So we expect around 65% to be the indigenous content at the end of this project. The main item, that is the engine, will continue to be a BOF item, that is a purchase from GE USA.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're saying that the engine will continue to come in from GE, but you hope that a lot of the other components that are coming in at this point in time from 10 other countries and 55 vendors who are outside of India, that localization process you hope will pick up steam, and you hope to be able to localize to the extent of 65% by the end of the contract. Let me also ask you about where things currently stand as far as the order backlog is concerned, Mr. Madhavan. What is the current situation on the order backlog?
We had an order for 40 aircrafts consisting of 20 of the IOC configuration and 20 of the FOC configuration. Out of this 20 IOC configuration, 16 were fighter aircrafts, which we have already delivered, and the 4 of the trainers, which has now been rescheduled as an FOC aircraft, will be produced in 22-23 and given to them after the design is completed by DRDO. Remaining of the FOC aircraft, we have by the year end, that is by March, we will produce and give about 7 of them, and the remaining will be given in 21-22. So by 21-22 end, we will be completing all the fighter aircraft, and 22-23 will give all the trainer aircraft against the existing order.
Okay, so you hope to complete the order backlog by 2023. Let me also ask you, Mr. Madhavan, whether there is any performance obligation linked to the delivery of the Mark 1A aircraft that you have with the Indian Air Force. You said that you're confident of being able to supply 16 every year, but is there a performance guarantee that has been inked as part of the contract?
Yeah, as part of the contract, there is a performance guarantee, and timelines are fixed for the delivery, and there is an LD, that is liquidated damages clauses, are also existing in the contract.
Okay, so there is a performance guarantee that's been worked into the contract. Can you give me a little more detail, sir, on the penalties that you were just alluding to?
The liquidity damages, that is up to 10%. And we are also bound that a delivery which is not happening in that year, there will be no price escalation given for the next delivery. So there are 2 ways of holding us responsible for the delivery in time for these aircrafts.
Okay, so there are damages, and there is a clause that prevents any price escalation if you don't deliver on time. What about the Navy, sir? While, of course, this is the contract with the Indian Air Force, you've also been trying to display the capabilities of the Tejas platform to the Navy. Where do things currently stand as far as that conversation is concerned?
We have been demonstrating the capabilities of the LCA to land and take off from the aircraft carrier, which has last January we successfully completed that. So the tests are to prove that an LCA in future can take off and land from the naval aircraft carrier. The main thing with Navy is that they require an aircraft which is twin engine, so that they have a sufficient load carrying capacity and a mission time which is now limited to about 20 minutes. So we are looking at a naval version, that is what we call as TED-BF, LCA with twin engines to come up in future, which is being designed by ADA, that is part of the DRDO. And we will be ready with the landing gears and the arrestor hook designed from HAL side for those aircrafts.
By when do you expect that this design part of the naval version will be ready, sir? By when do you expect things to sort of solidify on this front?
The Navy requires these aircrafts from 2028 to 32 onwards. So somewhere around 2028, we should be ready with the first aircraft.
Okay, 2028 is when you expect to be ready with the naval version.
Yeah, this has to be
and is this what is going to be offered to the U.S. Navy? Is that part of the conversation that you're having with the U.S. Navy as well, Mr. Madhavan?
That is a different aircraft altogether. That is under the lift configuration, that is lead-in fighter trainer. So basically, those are trainer aircrafts that we are pushing for. We have applied against the RFI that has been issued by the U.S. Navy. So we hope that it goes forward.
Okay. Let me also ask you about the Mark II, sir. What is the plan as far as the Mark II is concerned? How will the specifications be different? In what manner will they be different? And what's the expected timeline?
The Mark II is a larger aircraft, and the design is going on, and we expect the first Mark II rollout to happen in August 22, and the first flight of Mark II to happen in August 23. So once that happens, by 25-26 fiscal, we'll be able to deliver the first aircraft.
Okay, by 25-26, the first Mark II is what you hope to deliver. I also want to get an update from you as far as the helicopter plans are concerned, sir. The Light Combat helicopter, when will the contract be finalized for that? Have you been able to provide the specifications that the Indian Air Force had raised as far as the helicopter was concerned, so the technical demands that they had raised?
The technical demands of the aircraft has been met, and we are going to deliver the first aircraft this fiscal. And though the contract probably will be signed by March or so, that is what we are expecting, because all the negotiations are over. It has to get a CCS sanctions only. So if that happens, the full production will happen next year. And however, we have started the production activity, assuming that the contract will come in next year. So probably the first 3 aircrafts we are planning to give this year itself.
Okay, this year itself. What do you see as being the big challenges, sir, especially as you try and build out this ecosystem of vendors, Indian vendors, and enhance the number of MSMEs that HAL is working with? What do you see as the big impediments in being able to do that?
We have to mature our vendors to provide us end units and systems. As of now, they are contracted to work as just a manufacturing partners. So they should develop their own equipment and systems, which we go to a foreign country to buy. So we expect them to mature in that. They have their own design capabilities, so that the whole ecosystem provides all the other related parts within the country. It's not only the integration, and we want to be only the final integrator and the designer of the aircraft, whereas all the systems should come from our vendor base, which is now improving, but we have a long way to go there. Secondly, the materials which we are now buying from outside, this also needs to be indigenized. So there are a couple of companies who are working on it. So we hope that that also will mature. And over a period of time, we should look at more and more indigenous content in our aircrafts.
Speaking of indigenous content, so you talked about how the engines will continue to come in for the Mark I from GE, but we were given to understand that there was possibly a conversation around the transfer of technology as well from GE. Is that likely? Are you on the verge of being able to ink something there?
No, the contract with GE for manufacture is not going to happen here, because that has been taken out of this contract, which was initially there as per the initial bid that we have submitted. However, we are also having a plan for developing these engines within the country. DRDO is already setting up a engine complex for that, and HAL is also partnering there. So we are planning to have our own engines instead of depending on a foreign TOT for engines, because this is one area where a lot of foreign exchange is being pumped out because of purchase of engines from foreign sources.
But why couldn't you manage to get GE on board as far as transfer of technology is concerned and manufacturing is concerned?
Initially, GE was reluctant to give the manufacturing technologies. However, since it has gone out of this contract, Air Force is looking at how to get the technology for the maintenance aspect of the GE engines.
Okay. Let me ask you then to give us an outlook as far as 2021 is concerned. I mean, you've told us what you're hoping to be working on almost over the next decade, but specifically for 2021, what are the milestones that you hope to be able to achieve? What will be the priorities that HAL is going to be working on?
2020-21 was affected by COVID in the first 2 quarters, but we have come out of it. In fact, the third quarter, we are going to show a increase in revenue YoY from last year. And by the fourth quarter, we intend to keep our revenue growth at the same level as what we had given earlier. That is around 7 to 7.5%. We'll expect to gain this year also with hardly an effect of the COVID on us. 21-22 is another year where we will be looking forward to completing our ALH as well as your LUH and LCH programs. So that will be what the programs will be the ones that will drive us for next year. And beyond that, the LCA will continue to be there. So we have a good outlook for the coming years, and we expect the growth to increase beyond 10% to 12% from 2025 onwards.
Okay, so you're expecting growth to be between 10 and 12%. What about the margin picture, sir? If I were to take a look at your margins, EBITDA margins in FY20 coming in at almost 22%, FY21 the estimate is about 20%. What should be the expectation as far as margins are concerned?
The EBITDA margin will be around 24%. I think that is the numbers that we have been planning for, we have been doing for the last 2 years, and will continue to have it with a PAT of around 15 to 16%.
Okay, a PAT of around 15 to 16%. You were talking about being able to enhance capacity. What is the capex plan, sir?
We have a capex plan of this year for 1,040 crores, and next year onwards it will be 1,500 crores plus. Most of the projects that are going to come in is from next year onwards, so we'll be enhancing our capex for about 1,400 to 1,500 crores year on year from then onwards.
Okay, so capex of about 1,500 crore rupees is what you envisage. Let me end then by asking you, Mr. Madhavan, the Defence Minister has called the LCA Mark 1A a game changer in India's efforts for self-reliance. From where we currently are to where you hope we will get there, what to your mind do you see as the biggest opportunities as well as the biggest challenges?
The biggest opportunity is because this is a large number, so lots of vendors will be interested in coming on board on programs of this size. So we do hope that the vendors, larger vendors will come up in defense sector and help in indigenizing the platforms that we deliver. So that is the one good thing about large projects when they come in, because a smaller project doesn't even much of interest from these vendors. Second part is, of course, as I told you, that indigenous content can increase only if the vendors themselves come in with their own design, not only with an eye on the Indian defense sector, but also on exports. So what we are now looking forward to is to how to increase the exports from the country as far as the defense sector is concerned. And we do have a goal or a target set for us, that is by 2025, that is about 35,000 crores of export, and we should look at it only when the vendors themselves also have pitch in with their export potential items.
Well, Mr. Madhavan, we wish you and the team at HAL the very best of luck. Thanks very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18 to talk to us about the 48,000 crore rupee order that's come your way, long awaited, long pending, but finally been signed off by the cabinet and the government, and that is what you're working towards. Appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. We'll take a break. There's a lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a moment.